Hello, my Crystal Loves Texas family. I hope everyone is doing well tonight. Wow, guys, we got a good show for you tonight, and hopefully, um, you'll be able to chime in, give us some of your opinions on the topic that we'll be discussing. But to me, being a classroom teacher for 17 years now, this is a problem that I can see becoming more and more prevalent. And we've got some people here. We've got one person in studio, and we've got one person who's going to be coming in just a little bit, and they're going to speak to this trend. I'm going to call it a trend. I don't want to call it a phenomenon. I don't want it to get to that place, but um, we're going to call it a trend. But my guest, and let me tell you what the topic is. Of course, you know Rebecca.
Hi.
Rebecca
Hi,
is
everybody.
here tonight. Rebecca is always here with me. Thank you so much, Rebecca.
No problem.
And my guest here tonight is Nico A. And Nico, please feel free to introduce yourself, and we're going to jump right into it.
Okay. So my name is Nico Abazagian. I'm a second-year teacher. I've been with HISD for a year and a half now, with some experience at a private school as a substitute teacher for a while before that, doing 7th grade math. But I really settled into my role as a world geography teacher at Sharpstown before the takeover, and I've had a lot of trouble since.
Oh wow. Okay. That's now
Wasn't
that's,
expecting that
yeah,
one.
but that's okay, and that's what we want to talk about. If I can get the producer to come over here, he's going to my producer is going to come over here, and he is going to communicate for me with that. If you can communicate with him for me, Kenji. um
It's okay.
so Nico, what we're going to be talking about here tonight is why it's so difficult getting men to come into the classroom and getting them to stay in education once they are in. And I can tell you from the time that I have been in the classroom, I've seen young teachers, male teachers come in, and on the average, they may stay 2 to 3 years and they are out of there. Speak to that a little bit for me.
I haven't been there long enough to see the 3-year trend,
Yeah.
but I know the reason I'm not in a classroom right now is because administration has been pushing me out for standing up for my own students.
Okay. Okay. So basically, what you're saying is that a lot of it has to do with you not being able to have any type of autonomy in
Autonomy
your
is
classroom.
exactly right.
Yeah.
I do not have the autonomy to design lessons like I'd like,
Yeah.
or let my students go to the bathroom.
Okay. Now, you said you've been in HISD for a year and a half, right?
Yeah.
A year and a half. And in that year and a half, how have you seen, have you seen things change, or the way that things are done within your classroom? Because I was a middle school teacher
Right.
within Houston, but what level do you teach on?
I teach 9th grade world geography
Okay.
and 11th grade U.S. history is what I
Okay.
did this last semester.
So one of your subject areas is attested grade
Yes.
level. Yes. What are the ways that you've seen things change?
With the takeover, we were given scripts. We
Right.
were given materials that didn't quite fit right. I had the pre-AP world geography students
Wow.
and the newcomer to the United States U.S. history students.
So different ends of the pendulum.
different ends
Yeah.
of the pendulum, and they both needed a lot of specific care put
Yeah.
into their lessons. What was the question again?
How have you seen it change? So last year, for example, kind of give me an idea of what you had the liberty to do in your classroom to make sure that your students were being served.
Last year, I was able to take the kids outside when we started covering indigenous religions.
Yes.
Spiritualism, we went out to sit in the grass and look at the sun and think, why would someone worship the sun?
Right.
And it creates a little personal experience
Of
as
course.
to why they might, why ancient civilizations might have believed in the sun god. But
Right.
that's not something
I kind of want to
to
take that class.
You know, and I did a
And
lot,
I'm a history
yeah.
teacher.
Yeah, I did a lot of that. I did a lot of that too. You know, and sometimes you just need to break up the monotony. Break up the monotony of what's being done every day.
Right.
You know, and especially if you want to retain the attention of your students. And sometimes first of all, I would make sure that I was still doing exactly what was on my lesson plan, but I'd say, you know what, guys, it's beautiful outside. Let's take this outside, and I'm going to let you make your posters outside in the courtyard.
Yeah.
You know, and many times those types of that type of differentiation in what you're doing will allow students to be able to. Hi, Mr. Jolly. Our next guest just came in. Can you see us?
Yeah, I can see y'all. Can y'all hear me?
Oh, perfect. Yeah, we
Yes.
can hear you.
Okay, great.
Our second guest, Mr. George Jolly. And Mr. Jolly, introduce yourself and tell us what grade level you teach.
Hi, my name is George Jolly, and I was teaching 8th grade U.S. history at Fondren, and then I got reassigned to an elementary school for campus support.
Okay.
And so I've been with HISD for 13 years, but as an associate teacher for about 3 years, intern teacher for about 2 years, and a certified teacher for about a year.
Okay. So you have seen you've been here long enough to see kind of the way things have changed, you know, within the district, you know, over the years.
Yes, the changes, like when I first came into HISD, and like I said, not to say anything bad, and I just felt like when I first came in, they said that if any I have issues, problems, they said we're a big family. They emphasized they're one of the biggest districts in America,
Right.
and they said that they can, but they listen to all the employees' problems, but when I got there, like my first problem was transportation,
Right.
and they said that when I told them during my during my training pre-service orientation that they can fix that, and they can transfer me to a different school, but that never happened.
Okay.
So that's just one thing, but the main thing, which the biggest changes what I saw was that is it constantly there's a new system, and like I said, with the superintendent is they try to establish an agenda, which is I totally understand. However, we're being told that we're the ones that are failing the students, and it's our fault. And so my school that I first came in, I didn't know what a 180 school was. I just know there was an opening. So
Right.
then I found out an Achieve 180 school is a school that's failed, but is trying to turn it around.
Right.
And how they do that is by giving you resources.
Yes.
And I thought that was great.
Right.
However, at that time, that was during COVID.
Yeah.
And that was my first year teaching was during COVID. So that
Wow.
was, we had no no experience into hybrid teaching.
Right.
I didn't have, they said that they'd give me, I had no internet. When I was, at that time I was hired, I would use internet in public university.
Right.
And because they didn't give me a computer when I got hired. So
Whoa, wait a second. Now,
Yeah.
let me make sure I got this right, because I remember Rebecca and I were at the same school during COVID, and our particular campus made sure they went into that stock room or whatever that, you know, and they pulled out all of those old PCs, those old
Yeah.
Windows PCs.
Exactly.
Were falling apart, but they made sure that we had at least a unit to use, you know, when we were responsible for doing those hybrid lessons. And so what you're saying is that you did not have that?
They said that they provide me a hotspot. The hotspot device didn't give me good internet, adequate internet connection.
Right.
When I called, and then I remember during pre-services, if I have any issues, contact IT. When I would do that, I'm on hold, and so
Yeah.
there's a lot of discrepancies if I'm trying to contact. So
Right.
they would tell me, well, you know what, because I guess it was just hard for me to toggle back to look at screen, look at students. But I was told that, you know what, I should know how to use the internet. I should know how to use tech. If I have a degree, then I should know how to use all technological devices.
Wow.
And I thought that was unfair because I was a non-traditional student just learning how to use technology.
Right.
And I just thought that was like, so they would tell me, so I asked them, does that mean every teacher should know this? And they say, yeah, this is the expectation we should have. But then I said, well, you know, there's teachers that I'm helping across the hall or helping that's asking me for help to help with them in their classroom. And I said, well, where's the resources at to help us?
Apps. I was
Right.
like,
And the thing
I'm not
about it
doing
is,
this.
and the thing, Nico, you weren't in HISD yet at this particular time, but I can say that during that time that we were having to make that transition, it was the kind of thing where we literally had to make that pivot real time because we left for spring break
right,
and
never came back.
we did not come back. So we were
Exactly.
you remember, we were told, listen, we're figuring this out together, but I can say that our principal at our school,
she was so supportive.
Yeah, she did everything she could
They
to make
did.
sure that we had everything that we needed. And that's how we were able to make that pivot.
And speaking of that, I
seamlessly.
remember I was struggling with something at 11 o'clock at night. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to bother her. But it was bothering me.
Right.
And she picked up that phone immediately and walked me through the
And solved
process.
the problem.
We didn't get off the phone till 1 o'clock. She was like, you're good now.
Right.
Like, yeah, it was, we had that type of principle.
Right.
Yeah. And
God, I miss her.
And and you know, sometimes here's the thing with you two gentlemen. Now let's be clear. We know that the predominant school district that's in this area is the school district that you both teach in. Okay.
Mhm.
And that particular school district serves, I believe it is considered the third most diverse urban community in the country, the third most diverse. In one outlying neighborhood, remember this was Alief, it was a study was done, and they had, and this was in the 90s, they had 91 spoken languages in the district.
Yeah.
When you have that type of diversity, it is so super important for students to see teachers like you gentlemen who are male and who are non-traditional because you came from engineering, you know, and people who look like them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It seems like it would be in the best interest of everyone for us to do whatever we needed to do to retain you all in that classroom. Now, Nico, what you were saying, let's back up a little bit because I'm glad we got Mr. Jolly in here, and I'm going to ask you this too, Mr. Jolly. But and I'm not going to put you all in a position of incriminating yourself or anything like that. I don't want to do that. But I want you. I know.
Nico is chomping at the bit. I don't think we can.
And the thing about it is, but I will say this: many of the things that you guys are saying are some things that we're talking about. Other people who may be getting ready. We've seen the ads out there recruiting people in. We've seen it. The things that you all are talking about are things that people quite possibly need to hear.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Make that decision because and I'll come to this question later. But let's kind of start at the beginning. Nico, tell me a little bit about your story. You went to school here in Houston. Tell me where you went to high school, where you went to elementary, college.
Yeah, so I actually grew up in Clear Lake.
Okay.
I went to Clear Lake
Nice
High
area.
School.
Yeah.
It is a nice area. My parents are immigrants. My
Okay.
dad is half Russian, half Armenian. My mom
Okay.
is Colombian. They met at the University of Houston.
Okay.
So I like to
Okay.
say I only could have been made in a place like this. You talk about diversity.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
And they only could have met in a place like Houston.
That's right.
They're both engineers. They did well for themselves. They moved into suburbia, raised me in Clear Lake High School, and I grew up in their image, for better or for
Yes,
worse, and I
yes.
became an engineer like them. But I didn't find the corporate oil and gas life as glamorous as they did, and I wanted to serve an immigrant community,
Right.
which is why I picked Sharpstown specifically to work
Yes.
for, because it is the immigrant center of Houston.
Yes.
And in my U.S. history class, I had over 8 native languages.
Wow.
Wow.
So those ESL students were from all over.
And where'd you go to college?
I went to the University of Houston Clear Lake.
Okay. Okay. So you
near
kind of
home.
stayed in the area. Good.
I went to Delaware for a bit, but it didn't work out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr.
University
Jolly.
of Delaware.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Jolly, what about you? Tell us a little bit about yourself now.
Yeah, I would like to say, I like how you talk about the diversity of Houston and HISD. I'm a product of HISD. I'm from East Houston originally. So why I became a teacher and why I love this city and why I love this district was that I had teachers, I had a learning disability, and I had teachers who helped me out, white, Black, Hispanic. And I was a only Indian in my school. We're South Indian. The name of our culture, we're called Malayali.
Okay.
And I was very well welcomed by the teachers. Now it wasn't easy to go to HISD when you're the only of your kind of ethnicity, because you get made fun of. I mean, that's the
Kids are
that's the
cool.
naked truth.
Yeah.
And then also where we're from, it's a low income area.
Okay.
So it was just, school for me was an outlet because my home life wasn't too good, and it's including my friends.
Right.
And but it was the teachers who took their time to like care about me, saw that I had talent in sports and other things, and they motivated me. And because of that, and it was tough because my parents were hard on me, and they didn't. In our culture, it's either you're smart or you're not, and if you're not smart, go get a job at a non-advanced job, or just that's just how it is. So my parents didn't really believe in me, and so, but it was my teachers, and that's why I became a teacher. But when I became a teacher,
Wow.
it was the total opposite. It was just like it was the teachers that made me feel welcome. The teachers in HISD that, you know what, they saw a diamond in the rough in me, and so despite whatever setbacks that I had, I finished at U of H, and it was because of the teachers that I grew up that helped me. And so I wanted to return the favor and then go back to my old neighborhood. But when I went back, the whole economy just went down. All the businesses are all done, are all out of business.
Right.
I see everyone outside where it wasn't like, well, what I meant is like, I see people, there's a lot of jobless,
Hanging out.
people don't have jobs. But but then when I came to the classroom, because I taught in Forest Brook Middle School.
Right.
When I came there was a big distrust between the students and me because of my culture.
Wow.
Because
wow.
of my people, or the people in my community, we all did not leave. We all left their neighborhoods, and we never came back to help. The neighborhoods deteriorated when we left.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
so when we
city, yeah.
Burger King, McDonald's, all out of business. So what are kids supposed to do? They just go outside and they see people down Tidwell. And so what we had to do, and it was hard to see that, because they thought that I was a person that because only the Indians that they see are people who are starting up gas stations or trying to, they would say, try to exploit the area.
Yeah.
And so I had to try to reestablish and rebuild the community and the ties of cultural. And so that's what I liked about HISD.
Yeah. And I want to give this disclaimer. Mr. Jolly is on here because I called him and personally invited him because he was my co-teacher at the school that I was at. And to see someone, I could see how enthusiastic he was, and but I could also see that even though he had been in the district for a long time, he never really had anyone to mentor him. And a lot of times, a mentor teacher needs to be able to take that teacher under their wing for a year and a half. It's not something that comes in a matter of 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, that was kind of my experience when I first came
Yeah.
to HISD. Luckily, I had some teaching experience
Yeah.
because I tell anybody, my first day being hired, I got a scoping sequence in a classroom.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
it was like, this
Yeah.
is you.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
And then 3 or 4 weeks later, I was being observed.
Yeah.
Right.
But luckily, because I had worked in charter schools and I had a practice in a classroom, I could kind of feel my way through. But my God, what if I had no teaching experience at all? Like,
Did you benefit from the mentorship program that HISD funded last year?
Oh,
last year, now
They-
I
they
had a
defunded it this
mentor.
year.
Yeah, I had a
I didn't know of one. So probably that was something that was introduced to the new teachers.
Yeah. It was,
Yeah.
but I had a mentor, a mentee last year.
Mhm.
And he made my job kind of easy because he had teaching experience
That's
Okay.
good.
at the high school level.
Right.
So the only thing I had to do was switch some things out for him
Right.
for the middle school level.
Well, I can say this, and I'm not sure if this can be mirrored, and you guys can kind of tell me if this was something that's standard. And I tell Rebecca this last year because we come onto this very podcast and we talk about this, and she was just like, I cannot believe that happened. But at my school last year, there were 2 8th grade U.S. history teachers,
Mm-hmm.
myself, and at least 7 other people matriculated through that other classroom.
Yeah.
At least 7. And I can say this, it had everything to do with the people having to flounder.
Mm.
When they
Yeah.
got there, sometimes they would stay there 2 days, sometimes they would stay there 2 weeks,
Mhm.
and then they were out.
Out.
Before they realized how
Done.
unsupported they were.
Oh,
I mean, they
yeah.
were basically, I don't want to say thrown to the wolves,
Yeah.
but that was the kind of situation that we had. And I don't know if there wasn't a mentorship program that was in place I don't know if it was campus by campus,
Right.
but one thing, and Mr. Jolly, this is one thing that I said to you when we were working together. Sometimes if you really want something to be able to stick, it may take you having a teacher's aide or a substitute in that class for 3 days while the new teacher just goes around and shadows that
Absolutely.
master teacher.
Yeah.
See exactly what they do. You weren't given the opportunity to do that. Maybe.
Well, if I was given the opportunity, I had to do it on my my planning period.
I don't know.
We had A, B, C, and D to do, and I had, and my mentor and I had great mentors. The problem is they have their own stress. They have A, B, C, and D to do, and when do they?
Exactly.
If my mentor didn't have to, if there was an administrator and they could stay with me the whole time, that's
Yeah.
cool. But they're only given a limited time to stay with you. So and like you said, there's days where it's just the days are so long, and we got families. And when can we have that time? Because our planning periods, they get taken away. So that's the perfect time. And when I want to see my mentor, they gotta finish their stuff first.
Yeah.
And
And
it's real. Yeah.
And I also believe it goes under the umbrella that teaching is an easy job.
Mm.
So I think that's because the preconceived notion is that anybody can come and do this job.
Yeah.
So, and because anybody can come and do this job, you don't really need help. Just find your flow and keep it moving. Like I could never go into a law firm as a brand new lawyer and they tell me, well,
and just throw you to the wolves. And
here's
say,
your
"Get it done."
caseload.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The job training.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I feel like that's a big part of it. Like, you're here now here's your classroom, do your thing.
Yeah.
It's teaching. You have a degree. Go for it.
Yep.
Well, gentlemen, let me ask you this, because this is something that that it circles back around to what we were talking about a few minutes ago. But I want each of you to touch on this if you can. And Mr. Jolly, can you kind of answer this first? We all know that our jobs as the primary point of contact for students daily. There are many socio-emotional things that we have to navigate prior to beginning a daily lesson.
Yeah.
Do you think it's feasible that some philosophies assert that socio-emotional learning has no place in the classroom?
I believe that there has to be place.
Absolutely.
Because we're dealing with low income students. There's a lot of students that are under the poverty line.
That's
And they don't want to mention anything about anything what's going on at home, because they come to school, they see their friends, their peers, and that kind of takes away from their own problems.
Right.
But the thing is that they take it out on us teachers, and so we had to be the counselor, and that's cool, nurse, and confidant at times. But the problem is you can't cross that line sometimes, because you know what? Once I had two students, their dads got murdered. 13-year-old girls. And to see that, and to see them go through the adolescent, and these were both girls were very smart.
Right.
And then when that happened, they asked me, "What do I do, Mr. Jolly?" Well, I can tell them to a counselor, but that counselor has 30 other students that they're under.
But
they have to see, and so it takes time, and so they lose trust in you, because I can't give them an answer. I want to, but I got 26 other students.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Jolly, here's the thing. Are you encouraged to be that sounding board for a student who may just need that word of encouragement? Is that what you actually are encouraged to do? Are you
encouraged to do that?
Shut down that conversation?
Yeah. This year, last year I loved it. When we were at Forest Brook, we at middle school, we would have a 30 minutes before class started to talk about social needs and social emotional needs, but that cut off.
Yeah.
Last year, that's what I was going to say. Last year, my administration, who really did take me under their wing, and I really appreciate them.
Yeah.
Also encouraged me to work social emotional learning into the lessons, like talking about talking about history. I think we're all social studies teachers here.
Yeah.
Talking about someone in the past and how that relates to our current situation is a good segue both into the content and into what they're going through.
Absolutely, it is.
And on the flip side of that, I had a situation in my class where a child had a diabetic attack. I am still not over this. A child had a diabetic attack in my classroom. I was so scared, did not know what to do. Luckily, the child's best friend told me, "Miss Williams, we got to do this. We got to do this." The child was walking me through the process. Yep. And other adults that were in my classroom, and the other adults just sat there and looked.
Well, I think that we probably would all concur with the fact that this year, and what we've experienced in our classrooms was pretty much unprecedented.
Yeah.
And I know that prior to, and Rebecca would have the numbers on this more so than me, prior to January, several teachers, male and female, but lots of males, decided enough was enough.
Yeah.
More males than females.
Yeah. And and that's not good, because one thing that I've said, gentlemen, and I've said this before, and I say this all the time, you cannot look at the field of education the way that you do a corporate structure.
Mm-hmm.
Simply because in a corporate structure, you have people who are competing for commodities.
Yeah.
Right.
In education, you have the exact opposite. You have more, the need is greater than there are people to fill that need.
Yeah.
So when you come in and you come from the perspective of trying to address a situation like you would do in a corporation, where you have, and you're dealing with people who, for lack of a better explanation, know that they're a commodity
Mhm.
elsewhere, and they don't have to adhere to a certain guideline that they consider to be inequitable,
Yes.
and they make a shift.
Yeah.
And that leaves you even further behind where you were. Now, both of you gentlemen, you know that in our classrooms, because both of you serve the same student body pretty much, okay?
Yeah.
You are the only men in an authority position that a lot of our male students see, because there may not be a man at home.
Yeah.
And do you feel that in that particular, in your capacity, that there have been male students who have been able to confide in you in a way, even if it's one or two, because you are another male, that they may not have been able to confide in a female teacher, or find that level of trust in a female teacher?
I find that absolutely to be the case. Last year I worked with my ninth grade team was all close together. The science, math, English, and I were all in the same hallway, and so we spoke often about the same students and how differently they would act in each of our classes, and they would act the same way in 1, 2, 3, and be different in mine.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
you feel the same way with the male teacher in your hallway?
No, but as far as being able to build that relationship with a student. But I know, and I've seen male students in many cases have a teacher or a coach that could come by, and they could absolutely say, you know what, you're not going to go in that game today if you, I shouldn't hear Miss Dillard say anything else. That was all that teacher had to do.
Well,
or not even say do that. They just could knock on the door and say, can I just walk through?
Yeah.
They walk through, and they wouldn't say anything to those guys, but those guys would make sure that they had they tucked those hoodies in. And
coaches are a certain type of authority.
Yeah.
But, the choir teacher on my hallway also asked me to come by and sing a song with her all-boy class, just because they were being very non-participatory.
Yes.
Until I sang with them, and then there was a shift.
Yes.
And I think like what you said, that people don't just see a lot of men, and so maybe they don't know what roles men can play.
That's right. That's right. How about you, Mr. Jolly? Have you been able to forge some relationships with some of your male students that the female teachers may not have been able to do?
I feel like I changed the trajectory about at least 500 males.
Wow.
Absolutely. Wow. And that's 100% to go to college, because when they see someone that they're not, for me, like they had a totally different, they had a misconception of me, especially being born in Houston, because like I told you, they knew I could tell I was from Houston, and they thought that I was probably straight from India, which is okay. Yeah. But once they found out we had so many things that are interesting and so many things in common,
right?
The amount of feedback was amazing. However, it's all, and that's a beautiful thing. And it's cool when they respect you, but all that goes throughout the roof when you get hit by a bottle, when you get hit with the paper ball, and then you're like, okay, where did this come from? Right. I mean, this came out of left field. Like I thought we had going, but then let's just say you can't go deep into being that much of an emotional person, because they can't take advantage of you, and that's what I've learned. And because that's what when you were saying. When you're coming in, when you get thrown in the wolves per se, yes. You don't know how, because this is a people business, just like police officers.
Right.
It's hard to arrest someone because no one wants to get arrested. It's hard to get to hold a kid accountable, because at 13, it's not my fault. It's your fault. You're the bad teacher. And so then when they throw that at you, and just it's where's our support?
Yeah. Yeah. Since you have been in the classroom, and I'm not saying prior to you actually being a teacher of record, since you've been a teacher of record, do you feel that you have received the type of support that that you needed to receive to make you successful?
Well, let's put it like this: when there's a fight inside the classroom, who do we call? Or if there's three girls beating each other up and it's been, oh my gosh, and it's, as all of us have seen or maybe had experiences, there's been days where there's a fight it's traumatic to see a fight.
Yeah.
And when you see that, and it's your own students, you want to try to do something.
Right.
However, when you see staff administration not doing anything,
Yeah.
you're like, why should I put my? And then when you see another coworker saying they barely got hit, and they're like, oh, they want to get a disability check. So
Yeah.
you're just like, you don't know what to do because you're worried about your job. You're worried about so many things. But this is the crux of the matter is these kids are going through a lot of emotion. Like we said, they're going through a lot of things that doesn't have to do with education, even though education is so important. Because look where I'm at. And it's because of HISD, because of teachers who put their time. But today, these kids with social media, with the way let's just say, and even there's even racial divide in classes.
Yeah.
Because if I pick on one person with certain race, there's a kid with another race saying, why are you concerned with that race? How are you're neglecting us? And so that's something I've never been in. I'm not used to. So I had to be a peacemaker, and so we got to do things that were unorthodox in a way.
Right.
Okay, so I have a question for all three of you, including you, Crystal.
Ooh, I'm not a male teacher. And then we see you there, Donnie and Mila, and we're gonna get to some of your comments in a second. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I'll leave this for the men teachers.
Okay.
Since that's our topic tonight.
Okay.
If the powers that be were sitting in front of us right now,
Yeah.
don't stroke out, Nico. If the powers that be were sitting in front of us right now and said, okay, we're open to listening.
Yeah.
What is 3 things that you would tell them that's going on? And I mean
challenges.
The challenges, not
Yeah.
solutions.
Wayward students be the first one. Like students who don't want to. I mean, because they're like, let's get it. Like, there are students that, you know what, that CPS, like people, we don't know what's going on in a lot of these kids' houses, and we saw that during COVID because we could see them in their houses. We could see them taking care of 5, 6 brothers and sisters.
Yes.
You know, and it's just like, and I live vicariously through them because I know it's hard. And they can't. I would tell them about student needs.
Student needs. What else?
Mentorship.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
As a new teacher, being thrown in the deep end, like y'all have said, has been incredibly difficult. I had support last year. I didn't have support this year, and I watched new teachers drown under the weight. A teacher that moved in just next door to me. The lack of support affects everything. Like you were saying, disrespect from students,
right?
With mentorship, with support, you know, all it takes is an administrator to say, like, it doesn't matter if they call you the B word. They're going through something. You can figure out what it is.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that maybe you felt bad, but like, they're a child. Are you gonna let that affect you?
Exactly.
But alone, that new teacher, that 23-year-old sits with it and like, I don't need to be disrespected like this every day.
That's right.
Right, because then without the proper mentorship, you will have that 23-year-old that's gonna go word for word
with that student. Yes.
Yeah.
With that student. So we've got
student needs.
Student needs.
We've got mentorship. What else, gentlemen?
Let's just say accountability. Like, let's just say for, you know, and I was telling you, like, I've been told, like, it's my fault that poor performance. That's why the students aren't doing good in my class. But the thing was, I said, well, at least give me the benefit of the doubt. I've been here working. I never quit this job. Where all my coworkers, every single one, have quit HISD, but I stayed, because I believe. I believe that, you know, and they would leave in the first month of school. How can you leave? And they would go to my class and be like, Mr. Jolly, you're a great teacher, but these kids don't respect you. And they would run out the school and they go to a different district. And then they call me back and laugh at me. Are you still there? And I'm like, yeah, because I don't want to give up on these students. But when these students, they see teachers leave, and then if you're, and let's just say in the beginning, I loved how HISD, they said stay 3 years. At least try to stay 3 years. And you know what? And I did. But so many of my coworkers, they left. So when a student sees that the teacher leaves, there's a mistrust. So when I come in and try to fill that void, and I say, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm here for you. And so there's no accountability. Like I said, so I think teachers, they just got up and left, and they got a job somewhere else.
Well, Mr. Jolly, I'm gonna put a disclaimer in there
Sorry.
because I'm one of those ones.
No, I mean, no. But see, we understood but it's at this point, you know, like
I can see I can hear the frustration in your voice.
Yeah.
I can see the frustration on your face. And let me say this. I'm not with the district anymore. My reasons were a little bit different for leaving. I had some personal reasons why I had to leave. However, I sat and I told my kids, I didn't just not show up one day. I told my kids why I was leaving. I told them I believed in them. I told them that they were going to be fine and they were going to thrive. But I can tell you this, Mr. Jolly, and I'm sure my colleagues sitting beside me would say the same thing. If you're not hearing it from your higher ups, you are appreciated.
thank you. At least you told those you told them students that I have teachers, they said peace and just like forget y'all. And they
just to play the devil's advocate in this situation, I understand why teachers done what they've done. I understand the mental health aspect of it.
Absolutely, yes.
Because I've known teachers this year who had to check themselves in psychiatric hospitals.
Yeah.
Right.
I've known teachers who have spent days in the hospital because of exhaustion, of stress, and blood pressure been driven up. I've known teachers who've never been on medication a day in their natural lives are being prescribed all kinds of stuff now. So it's like, at what point do I sit here and be an advocate for the kids, which I want to be, but then at what cost is it to my personal health?
Right, because if we have if a teacher before, no, we wouldn't get a substitute, and so what we would do, we would allocate. If a teacher did not show up, we would allocate students 5 to do different classes.
Right.
But those students, they did not want to learn. When you have a student that their teacher didn't show up, that gives them an excuse to kind of play around, or you know what, not pay attention. And so the way that, and I understood, and it's a little hard for administrators, and so I can't blame them, because if they didn't have someone show up and they don't have a substitute, what do you do with the kids? You got to put them somewhere. And so what if you have 2 teachers out? And so that was the issue before, and I understand now. I understand now what they've gone real tight, stricter with the absences, because and I understand that why they had to do that. But the thing is, what do we do if there's like if we don't have substitutes?
Right.
Go ahead, Nico. Speak to that.
Yeah. I think there are real solutions to these things, like real policy and practical solutions. Teaching as a whole and education as a whole needs reform. We need resources,
yes.
wraparound services, counseling services built out, the homeless department refunded.
Yes.
And we need smaller classroom sizes. The Texas limit is what, at like 32?
Oh,
Right.
And Sharpstown
they've gone up on the cap.
Wow. 32.
On the cap for no other reason.
It's not even 32 anymore. If I'm not mistaken, the cap size now is 37, 38, and that's for a middle school classroom.
And Rebecca and Nico there
is no cap size for middle school and high school.
And that's my point. That's exactly what I was getting ready to say. That's because there aren't enough teachers who are coming in and staying in to make sure that those classes are divided into manageable sizes where you can effectively teach those students and be able to maintain what needs to be maintained in that classroom. That was born of necessity.
Yeah, because how do you teach 34 fourth graders
Yeah.
effectively?
Right.
How do you
Which goes back to what Mr. Jolly is saying about accountability. How do we still hold all those kids accountable when they can hide with each other, they can cheat off each other, they can
right?
do
So
whatever.
I think you have those situations where, and Crystal and I debate about this all the time. We go back and forth about this all the time.
Mhm.
This is the one of those things where we have to agree to disagree. I get that we do social emotional learning. I get we do homelessness. I get we do all of that.
Right.
But at what point does society's problems stop weighing heavy on teachers?
They won't. And let me
And
Yeah,
the reason
go ahead.
I'm saying that, I go to the polls every year
Yeah.
for every single
Election.
election.
Yep.
Why am I keep going to the polls to bring people into office for them to deal with? Because this is what you're there for,
Yeah.
to deal with these problems.
Yeah.
Everything is, oh, the school will handle it. Oh, the school will handle it. Oh, the school. But yet I'm going to the polls every single year for the local, state, and national elections
Right.
to put people in office to deal with these issues.
Yeah.
This is what my problem is.
Okay, well, let me say this. I want to chime in a little bit on what Donnie says. He's been watching, and he deals with with mental health and what people are going through a lot, and what he does daily. And he says, gentlemen, I personally tip my hat to both of you for leading our youth. So people are paying attention, and they're, even though you may not see it within the building, the confines of those four walls, you may not see it. People recognize and they appreciate what you're doing. Now, I want to speak, and he says accountability starts at the top first. But you know what? When you see, and I will say this, there is 100% difference, and you can see it immediately when you've got good leadership, good, strong, and accountable leadership in an organization or at a school, and when you do not have it. You can see it. It's tangible. It is tangible. Because and for master teachers or teachers who have been at it for a long time, when you can walk into a teacher's classroom and you see what is going on. I've had situations recently where I close my door and make sure that door is closed the entire time that my class is going on, because I know that it is going to be a calm, effective place for learning within my classroom. I know that for a fact. But if you open that door, the inmates are running the asylum out there in the hallway, and I'm like, where is the leadership?
Right.
Where is the leadership?
If you could talk the talk, then you could walk the walk. If you have solutions, but if you're not in the classroom with me in the trenches, how can I I like to follow leaders who would take the initiative, who are with me in the trenches and who've done something that, you know what, who've done my job before. But if you're not in the classroom with me for the whole 45 minutes, then you really don't know my students. Now, of course, we all have solutions, but I think every student is different.
That's right.
So, and I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, that's okay, because I want you to speak your mind. Now, Nico, let me ask you this. For the time that you have been in the classroom, and if you could do a rewind to when you were sitting in that engineering cushy.
I know, I'm so jealous.
I played so many video games in the middle of the day.
I know.
I'm so jealous, Nico.
That cushy engineering job. And you said, you know what? There's something out there that I know is pulling me to serve my community more.
Yeah.
And you decided to walk away from that, which I'm sure I don't even have to ask. I already know it was 6 figures. Because you were an engineer, okay?
Engineer, guys.
I already know it.
One of the most coveted careers in America.
Yes. Okay. So I'm not even saying that. I'm putting that out there. But for an engineer in any aspect of engineering, I know what that starts out at. So
80,000.
okay, but you were there a couple of years.
Yeah.
So that
Don't make
means he was already at six figures, probably.
Well, so
So-
on my first day with my students, I show them graphs
Yeah.
of how much I made as an engineer and how much I make as a teacher.
And I know
Yes.
they looking
I want
at
those.
you like,
I want those students to not. I don't want them to understand me.
Right.
You don't know why I do this. I do this for you.
And that's
Yeah.
right. And that's my point. That's the point that I'm coming to. If you were sitting
Yeah.
before a group of young, both of you, now, Mr. Jolly, you listen to this too. If you all were sitting before a group of young college age men getting ready to graduate
Yes.
now, and you had to give them your honest take on whether or not they should pursue teaching as a career, because like I said, we have seen the ads go up.
Mm-hmm.
You'll make $100,000 if
Mm.
you do this. I won't call any district names, but you'll make $80,000, $85,000, blah, 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 blah. It's a reason why those salaries are dangled out there like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, whether it's genuine or not, I don't know. But let me say this: would you encourage a young man right now to pursue teaching as his vocation?
Absolutely. I try to recruit as many people as I
That's
possibly
great.
can. I do tell them though that this is the hardest thing you'll ever do.
Yes.
That you are going to be completely on your own and you're going to have to figure it all out.
Yes.
And that if you can't find a way to really love your students and not
Yes.
blame them
Yes.
while you're holding them accountable,
Yes.
still taking responsibility for your everything, because it still
Right.
comes down to you. If you're not able to do all that, then you're not going to succeed. And it is a lot.
Okay. So that's a yes. That's a firm
So
yes.
That's a yes.
I love hearing that. I love hearing that. Mr. Jolly, you were sitting in front of a group of young men
Yes.
ready to graduate from college.
Yes.
Seeing what you have seen since you during your tenure in public education, could you in good faith encourage those young men to go into teaching?
I'd be lying. I would lie to them. I'd say I would tell them they need to, because to save our community. I mean,
Yeah.
to keep our the infrastructure of Houston together. That's if you care about where you live. But I would say that it's not easy. I would say this would be the most arduous jobs out there, because you're dealing with social with people. And then, but I would motivate them to do it. I just think that I would have to be real frank with them and tell them the flip side of the coin.
Yeah.
That, you know what, because we all have every teacher had good intentions to changing the world. However,
That's true. Yeah.
yeah. However, the thing is, no matter how much you do, it will never be enough.
Mr. Jolly,
Wow.
you said you
Yeah.
changed 500 worlds.
Right. But the thing, well, according to my administrators, according to the people in my past who evaluated me, they said that no matter, I could spend there were days we've all come home when it's nighttime, left the school. Left home, it's dark. Come home, it's dark.
Yes.
Yeah.
Come home after football practice at 10 p.m. and
Yeah.
then wake up to go to teach a lesson.
Yeah.
And then it's a thankless job. But you know what? The needs of many outweigh the needs of ours. Mine. So.
Wow.
I'd say that at least the first year before it got the harder it is,
Yeah.
the more you need that support and validation and
Yes.
care. But last year, it was still the hardest job before the takeover that I had
Yeah.
ever done. But it was rewarding enough. Seeing, those kids that came back and said, I've decided to go to college, or
Yes.
I've decided to commit myself, or that
Yes.
ninth grader who keeps smoking pot and they say, you know what, I've decided to quit and actually
Yeah.
start studying.
Yeah. Then you know that possibly something you said may have been even a tiny bit of a catalyst.
Or
Yeah.
that lesson on Buddhism we did after there was a fight in the lunch in the cafeteria, and then a week later a girl says, and I walked away from the fight.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Those are big.
Absolutely.
My heart weeps for education.
Yeah.
It does. If something is not done, and people may call me a pessimist, but I see things realistically now. I don't see things through rose-colored glasses anymore. Um, if something is not done and not done immediately within the next 3-4 years, I don't have high hopes for public education.
And Rebecca always says that, and
and the reason because what I'm seeing, not just in Houston, what I'm seeing nationwide.
That's what I was about to say. Nationwide.
I just, if something is not done within the next 3-4 years, I mean immediate intensive care.
Yeah.
I don't know where we're gonna be as a society. I don't.
The American Empire will crumble.
Right.
Well,
because
and ladies and gentlemen, I gotta cut you off there just a little bit. I get you, and I know where you're coming from. I get it, Rebecca, and I understand why you feel the way that you feel. However, I think that I see it a little bit differently. I believe that before we let the bottom fall out of something, that it may be a difficult wall to shore up, but I can see us coming together in a way that we shore that up, because we have to look at what the converse aspect of that situation would be. Without public education in an entire country, you have a country that is reverting back within 10 years to a third world status.
Yep.
Exactly.
Okay, I cannot see America allowing that to happen, because, like President Kennedy said, a rising tide will float all boats. Okay, so.
But that's why I said it has to be some intensive care done. And from what I'm sitting back as an educator, sitting back in the classroom, seeing what I'm seeing from all perspectives, not just the classroom perspective, for the political perspective, from all of it. If something is not done within the next 3 or 4 years, I weep for America. I mean, and that's just what it is. Something has to be done, and has to be done now. And look like nothing is rowing that anchor in.
Well, Rebecca, let me say this. I appreciate everyone's perspective, and I think that with us understanding it the way that we do, it's going to take your perspective and yours, Nico, and yours, Mr. Jolly, for us to really come together. The first aspect of correcting it is realizing that there's a profound problem that needs to be corrected.
Yeah, exactly.
And we are about 3 minutes over, and I know we've got to really go ahead and shut this down. But if there, gentlemen, both of you, if there is a recent college graduate that's looking to enter the field of education watching tonight, what words of advice could you give him to help him successfully navigate his first years in the classroom? If you could give me 2 words, and then you give me 2 words to help that new male teacher in the classroom to stay, what would they be?
Set boundaries with administration and students. You need that lunchtime, you need that planning period, and you need to go home at 4:30.
Yes.
So what if the lesson's not done the next day? They already gave you too many kids.
Yeah. You'll figure it out. That's called juggling life real time. Yeah. Everything doesn't always happen on a schedule. Mr. Jolly, that's 3 words. Keep going.
Keep going.
Okay.
Keep going.
Perfect. Well, listen, gentlemen, I want to thank you both so much for coming in today.
Yeah.
You guys who are in those comments, thank you, Donnie. Thank you, Ms. Janet. Thank you for the other people who were watching. We're going to get a lot more views on this after the podcast, but keep putting your comments in there, and we will, if we have to have to revisit this again, we're going to revisit it because we've got to find a solution to the problem of why men are not going into education and staying in education. Nico A, George J, thank you so much for joining in us, and Rebecca, as we say every week,
We can do it.
See you
Bye,
later.
guys.
Go Cougs!
Good morning.